Globally, on the day of elections, elections are held in easy-to-reach areas, difficult-to-reach areas. And when you talk about elections at difficult-to-reach areas, Nigeria inclusive here, not excluding Nigeria, you find a class of persons because of difficult-to-reach areas in terms of accessing the polling booths, accessing the polling unit, accessing even where to go and get your ballot to vote. They are a class of persons who are not given a 100% level playing field, and these are the people living with disabilities. Yet we say we have a right to political and electoral process. That will be the focus on this segment on Inside Today. My guest is Ben Bature Aga. Ben Bature Aga is a program manager of the National Democratic Institute, NDI. Thanks for joining me on the program.
Thank you very much, Emeni, for having me.
What is the concern of your institute, your partners, regarding disability voters matter?
Okay, first maybe I do a little background about NDI. NDI is a National Democratic Institute, which is a non-profit, non-partisan development organization that has been working in the last 30 years, for democracy and also working to make democracy work. With the support of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and UKAID, NDI in Nigeria is providing support to persons with disabilities, working with disabled persons organizations here to ensure that access to electoral processes it's better than it currently is.
For how many years now have you been doing this with them?
Well, this actually started in 2016,
okay.
When NDI started working with two groups, Inclusive Friends Association and the Center for Citizens with Disabilities.
Okay. What catches my attention here is Disability Votes Matter.
Yes.
What is it all about? Well,
Disability Votes Matter is a report. The Disability Votes Matter report is due to be released on October 25th. The report contains the findings of Nigeria's first and second polling unit accessibility audit that was conducted by Inclusive Friends Association, IFA, and its partners. The report, the partners utilized the same methodology that is used for parallel vote tabulations. They utilized sample-based election observation methodology to collect representative data on election day processes and procedures and the challenges that persons with disabilities, face on election day.
Okay.
So that report is going to be presented on October 25th, and it contains the findings from that process. Part of these findings include the routes leading to the polling units during the September 28 and November 26 governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State respectively. The routes leading to polling units were largely inaccessible.
Why do you choose Edo and Ondo?
Well,
it's a national problem.
Yes.
Not just a national problem, it's a global problem.
Yes.
Whether on election day,
yes,
it's just that in some climes, they have made efforts to streamline that.
Yes.
So in our climb, what I'm saying so is that if you say Edo and Ondo, what about Lagos? What about Cross River? What about Ebonyi? What about Kano? What about Zamfara? Are they excluded?
No. I think the reason is simple.
Okay.
The only way and time you can conduct a polling unit audit is when elections happen. And you will agree with me that from 2016, when NDI started providing, with the support from USAID and UK, it started providing support to our partners, Inclusive Friends Association and the other people that partnered with, it was 2016. And the only elections that have held so far, big elections, have been the September 28 and November 26 governorship elections in Ondo State.
So these two are just a case study?
Yes, there are a pilot.
Okay, to be used to apply nationally, right? Okay.
Yes, it gives us, because the methodology used, for instance, the sample-based methodology, you draw a representative random sample from all of the polling units in those states. Yeah. So the findings from those states are representative, it's statistical based. They're statistically valid across the entire state.
Yeah.
Yes, but it gives us a very good picture of what transpires, across other parts of the country. And you must agree with me also that Edo and Ondo states are not the most challenging if you talk of terrain.
Yeah.
So it may be worse in other places.
Okay. So the concern now, let me read this line. You are looking towards achieving full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. That is, persons living with disabilities, right?
Yes.
So how do you intend to drive this?
It's already been driven.
Okay.
And, maybe I should begin from here,
Yeah.
in responding to this question.
Because I want you to really hit the nail.
Our partners, Inclusive Friends Association, are not saying nothing has been done.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they've identified a number of things that have been done.
Good.
For instance, INEC has just released, the Independent National Electoral Commission has just released its 2017 to 2021 strategic plan. They have very progressive recommendations, items in that plan that will improve the participation of persons with disabilities. It will reduce the challenges with accessibility. Also, if you do a comparative analysis between the 2006 and the 2010 Electoral Acts, you will see that Section 56, 1 and 2 was non-existent in the 2006 Act, but the 2010 Act has that section.
What does it say?
It talks about how to include persons with disabilities. So the National Assembly has also made some contributions to this. But what Inclusive Friends Association, our partners, are saying is a lot more can be done. And they are saying that particularly because Nigeria is signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And if you look at Article 29 of that convention, it lays out clear parameters through which accessibility, access to electoral processes for persons with disabilities can be achieved. So they're saying a lot more can be done.
Okay. A lot more can be done. Like what?
Yes, of course. There is the disability.
I'm happy you have said
yes.
they have been doing, but a lot more can still be done.
If you look at the recommendations that the partners are putting forward in the report that will be launched on October 25th, the Disability Votes Matter report, they have spoken about finalizing and passing and enacting the Disability Act. That bill is still within the National Assembly, so they're asking, the members of the National Assembly, the two chambers of the National Assembly, and the president to quickly, pass that bill and sign it into law. That is one of it. INEC is currently in the process of developing a disability framework, very commendable. So Inclusive Friends Association and other disabled persons organizations in the country are also asking INEC to quickly accelerate the process so that upcoming elections, I think Anambra is also too close, but after Anambra, I'm sure you're aware there is Osun.
Yeah.
There's a Kitty first, then Osun elections. These are, if that framework is in place, you can use these elections, to pilot some of the new things, that you want to, put in place to make, remove the barriers that persons with disabilities face. So that's another one. Our partner, Inclusive Friends Association, have also said in INEC's criteria for the location, relocation, and setup of polling units, that there is a need to have specific provisions that target persons with disabilities, that talk about the how, the why, the when, and the who, as regards the participation of persons with disabilities. It's important to say, for instance, in the criteria for the location of polling units, to say it should be in an accessible area. But what is an accessible area? It helps if you have point A, B, and C, particularly tied to persons with disabilities, and say, this is what we need to meet to have an accessible area. There's also for the relocation of polling units, but there's also for the setup of polling unit on election day. To say that this, and this needs to be in place.
Have you thought about getting them also involved to be presiding officers during elections?
Presiding officer, yeah. Persons with disabilities are Nigerian. The Constitution is very clear about that.
Because you are only looking to them just voting, but you're not thinking about them also being either resident electoral officer, commissioners, local government electoral officers. Are you looking towards this too?
No, definitely. Because you see, this program is part of the support that is coming from Objective 3 of the Electoral Empowerment of Civil Society program that NDI supports in Nigeria. That objective talks about increasing the participation, the political participation of marginalized groups, which include persons with disabilities, youth, and women. So the political participation, there's no way it goes beyond participating as voters.
Okay.
It goes also participating as electoral officials, as election observation, which they've achieved, and as candidates maybe in the future. However, they choose to go forward with that.
Will you say you're satisfied, or your organization or your partners are satisfied with the participation of people with disabilities in Nigeria? E.g., when campaigns are on, they are reached by all means to come out and vote. And on the day of polling, on the day of voting, you find them, some are brought in wheelbarrows, some are brought in vehicles to vote. Are you satisfied so far with their turnout across the country?
Well, the issues with data is one of the first reasons why our partners, Inclusive Friends Association, conducted Nigeria's first and second polling unit accessibility audit. Before then, there was really no data to say, to highlight the challenges that persons with disabilities face on election day. But the other challenge, and it's part of the partners' recommendation in the report that it's been released to the Independent National Electoral Commission, capture the data of persons with disabilities disaggregated by type of disability, during the continuous voter registration processes. Why is this important? The partners are saying this is important because it will help INEC to plan. For instance, I give you an example, Braille ballots. If you're going to introduce Braille ballots into Nigeria's political process, how do you do that when you do not know the number of visually impaired voters and where they are located? You need to have that data, So in terms of how persons with disabilities are voting across the country, that data does not exist. That's in response to your question. In terms of turnout, that data does not exist at the moment. But I must say that the Independent National Electoral Commission is listening and have been engaging with our partners, Inclusive Friends Association, and other disabled persons organizations in the country.
Well, beautiful. I would love to say that an average viewer listening to you will say is excited about what you're doing. But what will you do to sustain this effort to ensure that it is implemented? Because it is one thing coming up with a beautiful document like this.
Yes.
It is brought to the public, it is presented to INEC.
Yes.
And if you go to sleep, what E&A have you put in place to ensure that it is implemented?
Yes, so, NDI works behind the partner, providing technical and other kinds of support. And part of our responsibility at the National Democratic Institute is to help the partner think through sustainability, ways of sustaining this engagement. But I can tell you also that the good thing is that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has been very open, have been providing all the kind of encouragement. They are listening to the partners. They are engaging with the partners. And of course, together, planning blocks have been put in place to ensure how, they continue to work together to improve all that needs to be improved.
Okay. Now, what you're saying, believe me or not, people will say they are up to it again. Not everybody will buy hook, line, and sinker this initiative you are coming up with. Well, why would some other person thinking the other way should not think that way? Because I can say, okay, good idea, but what's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, the big deal is that according to the 2006 National Census, there are over 3 million persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Disabled persons organizations in Nigeria, including our partner, the Inclusive Friends Association, they use the WHO projection, which says 15% of the world is disabled. What does that mean? That means that if you do a 15%, which is what our partners do, of the population of Nigeria, you're heading towards 23 million people. Over 27 million people, I beg your pardon. You're heading over 27. That's a big deal. Every citizen matters. But now when you're heading into millions and millions and millions of people, it matters even more. That's the big deal.
Okay.
And they are citizens, and our constitution guarantees them all the rights that every other citizen, in this country have. Everybody is equal before the constitution. Okay. And citizens are citizens regardless of whether they have a disability or they do not have a disability.
Okay. I'm happy to you're partnering with a group called that has the word inclusiveness in its name. Should this project just be an NDI project, or should it be embraced by all Nigerians?
No, I want to correct that. It's not an NDI project. The project is an Inclusive Friends Association project that is supported by NDI, USAID, and UK Aid.
So should Nigerians embrace it, or just leave it to you guys?
No, but you see also, in terms of sustainability and broadening the support base for this project and the idea it is promoting, Inclusive Friends Association is partnering with the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities and several other disabled persons organizations across the country. The idea is, join us. That's what the partners are saying. How do we move this forward together? Partner with INEC, partner with the National Assembly, and achieve these very noble objectives that we have to make the country's elections more inclusive for all of its countries.
Yeah. Are you campaigning that all other persons should join in this campaign?
Our partners are calling, thank you very much for clarifying. Our partners are calling on all Nigerians, beyond even Nigeria, for well-meaning people to join the cause. Like every other, cause that helps take society forward, that helps, strengthen, societal development, to join hands, push this idea, in whatever little ways they can, to ensure that more of our brothers and sisters, more of Nigeria's citizens, regardless of whether they have a disability or they do not have a disability. But you also need to even remember that it is difficult terrain and inaccessible polling units do not only affect persons with disabilities. Because like I said to you, our partners observed routes leading to the polling unit, entrance into the polling unit, access of election materials, and access of the electoral process.
So by extension, what you're advocating will also be beneficial to
it will be all Nigerians.
People. Now, I know you want to say that you're already with NTA discussing this.
Yes.
No matter how novel this project or initiative is, and you don't involve the media, nobody will get to know about it.
Of course.
INEC may not get to know about it, and a couple of other persons who should know about it. How well is the media involved in what you're doing?
Yes.
If you have a media component at all about what you're doing?
Definitely.
Okay. I expect by now maybe to see short takes, jingles, or radio, TV, maybe billboards. Very important.
Definitely. Our partners, Inclusive Friends Association, and the other organizations they worked with in the past were able to get over 43 media reports from their engagements in Edo and Ondo alone. This came through several kinds of engagement, visiting, courtesy calls on media houses, press conferences, pre-election press conferences, post-election press conferences. They had over 11,000 likes on Facebook. Keeping the citizens, key stakeholders, electoral stakeholders who are in a position to make change.
Okay. Election is about the people.
Yes.
Maybe a few handful officials from INEC conduct elections. But if the people together collapse and say, look, zero to rigging, it will work. What's your message on this?
It's not just elections. I think it's democracy as well. Okay. One of the most globally accepted definitions of democracy, is by former U.S. president, which says democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not a coincidence that the word people appears 3 times in that definition. Abraham Lincoln, it's not a coincidence. So it's about the people. All of these interventions are there, but they will fail, including, what we're talking about here today. They will fail if the majority of citizens do not come forward, own it, and push it forward, move together, the ideas, the campaigns and so on, to ensure that society is a better place for everyone to live in.
Okay. Ben Bature Aga, National Democratic Institute, it was nice talking with you on Insight.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you well, and we hope that the project you're chasing will really see the end of it.
Thank you very much. Okay. It was a pleasure being here.
Up next one is very interesting. It's time to go.
Yes, and I particularly was interested in the part of the INEC been interested in the issue of persons living with disability, and it was quite a good one there. Yeah.
The fellow said, beyond just the fact that it's about for those living with disabilities, it is a project all Nigerians should embrace.
Should key into,
because at the
exactly.
end of it, if difficult to reach areas are attended to, even those of us who don't have physical disabilities will also benefit.
Would also, so somehow it cuts across everyone. That's it for today's episode of Insight. Thank you very much for being part of the program. I remain Eunice Johnson.
On behalf of all of us, always be there with insight.